Hello. Today we're going to be talking about two masks. I've got a third one over here. I'm going to show you just as a contrast between these two. So that'll come up a little bit later. Today we're talking about the differences between the Boogeyman and the Don Post 1975 man. So for a long time, I actually thought that both of these were the exact same sculpt. I had pretty good reason to believe that. Now I know you can go into forums and people will tell you, oh, this one's the creep, this one's the psycho, and it's hard to really take any of that too seriously, being that none of it ever comes from the horse's mouth. So it's hard to take anybody at their word. So I was always curious, so I ordered one of each so I could literally compare them side by side. They are not the exact same sculpt. I know one of them is is based on the Night Owl Creep. One of them is based on the Night Owl Psycho. I don't remember which one's which, and to be honest, it really doesn't matter. But I've heard, oh, it's based on these sculpts, or it actually is the same mold from these sculpts. Who knows what's true? I haven't heard any of it directly from Justin Mabry's mouth, so anything else is secondhand information. So it's really hard to confirm. But once somebody confirmed to me that they are not the same sculpt, I decided to look a little bit closer, because there are certain things on here that are like exactly the same. Like if you look at these side by side, the profiles are almost identical. The areas around the mouth in particular, there's some sculpting choices that were made that are exactly the same on both masks. I did read somewhere that these masks have lineage back to the same mask, so that might be the reason for that. But there's like creative decisions that were made that, like, I can't see an artist making the exact same decisions in the exact same way twice. So at one time I think these were the same mask. Where they're different is the eyes. The textures on the eyebrows are definitely different. And then some of the placement on some of the little creases just have some slight variation between the two. But, I mean, the differences are incredibly negligible. In fact, to the layperson, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed. I had to look really hard to figure out what the differences are. They might as well be the exact same sculpt. And the other reason I wanted to order both of these is I wanted to do two of these. I wanted to rehaul two of these at the same time. And rehaul them in the same way. So I want to make them both into 78s. And I want to see which one's better. What are the pros and cons of each one? Is there a value in having the eye holes already cut for you? I mean, even though the Boogeyman needs to have the eye holes adjusted anyway, they're always just a hair too wide apart. So in my mind, you're adjusting them anyway. This one, you have the opportunity to do your own eye cuts completely from nothing, and you can decide exactly where you want those cuts. So there's a little bit more freedom there. Also, I don't know what you know about the Don Post 1975 mask. This is a low-key Kirk, not really a Kirk, of the 1975 Star Trek mask that Trick or Treat Studios used to produce, the reissue anyhow. I believe this is the same sculpt as that. However, on this new version, there's no paint on it. I mean, there's some shading around the eyes and the lips, but besides those little couple of spots of shadings, this is raw latex. There's no coat of paint on here. And you're not going to be able to see it probably too closely on camera, but a lot of the little details, like the lines in the forehead, the little creases around the eyes, even the little bump by the mouth here, is a lot more readable on this one because there's not a coat of paint already on it, which I did not realize. They also didn't, on this new version, they didn't put hair on the eyebrows like they did with Kirk, which I really like. That eliminates a lot of work. I noticed there's this hard line right on the hair on this new version. And I think that's because they know nobody's leaving the hair on anyway. I believe I did see an interview with Sean Clark and the president of Trick or Treat Studios, the guy that's not Justin Mabry, whose name is eluding me. And he said they would love to produce a blank of the Myers masks, but they are not legally allowed to per the production studios. So what I think this actually is, I think this is Trick or Treat Studios' best attempt at giving us a pseudo blank to work with. And that's, I mean, that's evidenced just by the fact, I mean, I'm pulling out the hair here. This comes right off. There's no effort going into this. Boogeyman, I've taken hair off of these and they can be hit or miss. Sometimes they come off easy. Oh, this one's coming off pretty easy. Sometimes they're a little bit more of a hard time. Yeah, and actually you can see some of the latex just pulled back here. It's fine because it's going to end up behind the hairline anyway. But I've had some of these masks where it's like trying to pull concrete off. It's ridiculous. So, oh, this is great. I'm actually really excited about this now. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. This was a gamble for me to do on camera. Yeah, and there's another little spot where some latex came off. You know, and you can strip this down to the bare mask if you want. I wouldn't recommend that. I've done that before, and it is a nightmare. You know, and I've heard different things from different people. Sometimes it's not that hard. I've heard some people say it all peels off really easy. The one time I did do it, I had a horrible experience, so I'm not going to be doing that just based on that experience. Let's set this over here. Another difference, let's look at the back of the head here. For some reason, God knows why, Trick or Treat Studios likes to glue the hair on the Boogeyman to the back of the neck. I know they do that on a couple other masks. They don't do it on the 78 shape, but and more importantly, they don't do it on the Don Post 1975 mask. So that is another step that you do not have to do. The eye placement on the Boogeyman is actually not bad. It does need to be adjusted. It's not clean. I can see it's a very rough cut. Whoever did this incredibly hastily. So no matter what, I'm going to have to clean it up. But I am going to have to bring these eye cuts just a hair closer to the bridge of the nose. Just bring them in. I like to bring them in just a touch on this mask. They're very, very close though. So you know, if you're nervous about doing eye cuts, and this may seem like a safer route, because you're instead of starting from scratch, you're just making a couple of adjustments. Now this I'm excited to get into. I have a couple of methods for doing the eyes. I'm thinking about doing a YouTube series called Things I Do Differently. I don't want to do any full rehaul videos because there's really no point. There's not a lot that I'm going to be able to add to that conversation that hasn't already been said. If you're looking for, you know, advice on how to do a rehaul start to finish, I would recommend reaching out to Nick Molpagano and picking up one of his paid videos. That's kind of how I started getting into this. Now, you know, that being said, that was a couple years ago, and since then I've done a lot of masks, so I've kind of developed, you know, and evolved my own techniques, so I've kind of strayed away from what he's teaching on his videos, and the same would be for you. You know, the more you do it, the more you're going to find things that, you know, work better for you. But Nick does a really great job of like pointing out nuances that like you wouldn't think to, you know, especially if you're just starting out. You know, there's little things that you don't realize are as important as they are. A lot of them having to do with the hairline, how heavy you should go with your shading, and he does a really great job explaining that. I think his videos are like $20-$30. They're not expensive. Just reach out to him and pick up one of his paid videos if you want to see a rehaul start to finish. If I do any contributions at future videos, like I said, it's going to be regarding the things I do differently. I've watched a lot of rehaul videos. I've seen a lot of different people's methods of doing things. And I have some of my own that I don't see other artists doing. So I may upload some of those. Well, I'll kind of just peek in while I'm doing these, and just I'll highlight the areas where I'm doing something different than what a lot of other people are doing. Let me know what you think of that in the comments. But otherwise, like I said, this was just really to cover the differences between the Boogeyman and the 1975 Don Post mask. We're not going to call it a Kirk. The other one last thing about these. These are incredible sculpts. I mean, for a $55 price point from Trick or Treat Studios, something you can just pick up on Amazon most of the time. These are incredible masks. And these are, I would actually argue that this mask, for the under $100 price point, is the absolute best Kirk sculpt you are going to get. This one and the Boogeyman. They're both, even the Boogeyman is a Kirk in spirit. There are better sculpts out there by independent artists, independent mask makers, and I'm not saying anything against those sculpts. Some of them look great, but like here, I'm going to show you right here. I've got this is a Chris Vannekamp 78 that I've converted into an H2. It's not completely done. I still got to add a little neck wound over here, and I got a few finishing touches. I might actually move the hairline forward just a touch. I'm not sure if I went quite far enough forward on that. But you can see how chiseled the features are on here. And while it looks great, and it's a really thick, heavy pull, with much higher quality latex than Trick or Treat Studios is gonna give you, the details on this are really, they're hard details. This mask has more definition than it really should if we're going for, full accuracy. The original 1975 mask, I've never had one in hand, but I'm guessing it probably actually looked more like this. We all know that, when people are doing the shading on here, what they're actually doing is they're emulating lighting effects. The real mask was stark white and nothing more. It didn't have the shading under the cheeks like you see in a lot of the rehauls. So we're really kind of, as artists, we're trying to replicate a lighting condition through paint application. But if you want something that's truly accurate, this is actually probably going to be closer to the real deal than a higher end mask like this. This was more than double the cost for a blank than what one of these costs. And I actually got a rough pull. There's some rough areas here on the neck. I actually bought this with the intention of making it into a 78. And after I realized I wasn't going to be able to really repair these effectively, the person that did the pull, I mean, it's in general it's a good pull, but it's a little rough right here. So I thought that made more sense as an H2, and that's why I decided to go that direction. Still a fantastic, top-notch looking mask though. But anyhow, if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. I usually answer pretty quickly. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm Nick Grosskopf, Grosskopf, and I'm the one that has Darth Nick in parentheses next to his name. And a picture of Michael Myers as my profile picture. So if you're looking for me on Facebook, you can find me there. Alright, that's it for now. Hopefully we'll see you on the next video, on the first episode of Things I Do Differently.